the craziest story. I bought my first home in July. I had a patio space. I was so excited to put my twinkly lights up. I'm one of those girls that really enjoys a good twinkle light. I string those babies up, and of course they come crumbling down because my neighbor did not like that. The next day, my boyfriend is outside grilling. She comes over yelling at him. Why were the lights on at 3 in the morning? I don't know. What's it to you what time I'm sleeping? We come inside after her yelling at us, and we hear her. She has a hammer hammering at my property trying to get these things down. So I go outside and I'm like, excuse me, please don't touch my property.
Your property is your mouth. Why don't you think of others?
She did not like that. The following day, she decided to watch me all day long. I had seen this previously, like I had noticed her watching me occasionally, but she stood out there at the fence watching me the entire day. I got very uncomfortable. I went back outside to say something.
Do you need anything?
Why are you talking to me?
You're staring down over here.
I don't want to have anything to do with you.
Then why are you looking at me? Why are you staring at me all day?
Because I have a right.
Claims this is legal and I should sue her. Maybe I should. I don't know. Let me know. The story just gets more and more insane. But we're running out of time, so
I was 21 when I found out I was pregnant with twin girls. My sister is 28 and has had 14 miscarriages. She's only had one successful pregnancy, which resulted in my 4-year-old niece. I'm not against having kids, but I definitely wanted to wait until I graduated with my degree and I was married to my significant other. From the start, my mom has been saying I should give my babies to my sister since she deserves them more than I do. And my sister completely agrees. I told them hell no, and my mom calls me a selfish bitch. Throughout my pregnancy, my sister has been begging me to give her at least one baby since I'm having 2. The last time I saw her, we were having lunch and she started babbling about keeping one of my babies, so I paid for my meal and left and haven't seen any of them since then. After I have my girls, I log on to Facebook to hundreds of threatening messages from my family and friends about how I stole my sister's babies and ruined her life. She posted a picture of her nursery that she had for my babies. There's so many posts about how generous I am for going through the pregnancy and giving my sister the babies. She told everyone I was giving her my babies, and she has my pictures of them in the NICU saying how she can't wait to bring them home.
This is why you should never use a red crayon.
This is about a creepypasta called The Crayons.
A married couple who had just returned from their honeymoon decided to buy a house. And one day the husband was walking down the hall when he spotted a red crayon lying on the floor.
Now the couple didn't have any children, so they wondered where this crayon had come from.
The next day the husband came home from work to find another red crayon lying in the same spot.
He was very puzzled and decided to ask his wife about it.
She told him that every day since they first moved into the house, she had been finding red crayons when she was cleaning.
And they were always lying in the same spot at the end of the hallway.
So he tapped on the wall at the end of the hallway and heard a hollow sound. Curious, he began peeling off the wallpaper.
And behind the wallpaper, he found a pair of sliding doors. They were nailed shut, so he had to open them one by one. And then he opened the doors to reveal a small hidden room.
Looking inside, they saw that the walls of the little space were covered in words scribbled in red crayon.
Over and over were the words, "Mommy, I'm sorry, let me out. Mommy, I'm sorry."
Put a finger down if when you were turning 13, your mom had a giant sweet 13th birthday party for you for no reason at all, and she made it a big deal. She got a venue, a DJ, a cotton candy machine, a nail artist, a henna artist, and you invited all the girls in your grade at your school. You invited girls in older grades, girls from other schools, girls from your dance classes, and because you live in a small city, all the girls your age kind of knew about your party, and more were asking if they could come, and you were saying yes, until a few days before your party, you get this long text message from this girl that you literally haven't talked to in years, threatening you, saying that if you don't invite her to your party, she is going to come for you, she is going to ruin your reputation, she is going to make sure that all the other girls don't go to your party, and that you just need to invite her. And you tell her no. But then someone ends up showing her your party invitation, which has your mom's phone number on it, to RSVP, and her mom ends up calling your mom and saying, invite my daughter to your daughter's birthday party. And my mom's a nice person, so my mom says yes, and like for part 2 to hear what she does at the party.
Put a finger down if your friend was getting married and you didn't know anyone at the wedding. So she says that you can sit with her friend Tyler after you get to know him. So you start to text Tyler every day for about 3 to 4 months. Get pretty close. But then he doesn't show. That's okay. You guys are still friends. You're still going to talk to him. A few more months pass and he ends up getting a girlfriend named Lexi, who he eventually knocks up. At this point, Lexi goes crazy, starts making his life a living hell, and he develops depression issues. After talking to Tyler about his depression, you say that he needs to leave Lexi for his general health and well-being, but he decides that the best course of action is to commit suicide. So for years, you harbor all this guilt, not knowing what to do or say to save your friend, and knowing that he's gone forever. About 10 years later, you find out that nobody in the story was ever real, and that you were catfished by your friend who got married.
Story time. So once upon a time in grade 5, I was going through this really strange phenomenon where like 5 of my adult teeth decided to all come in at once. Now I already had this really weird obsession with when I had a loose tooth, I loved to like pluck it out of my face like berries off of a vine. So as you can imagine, sitting there with 5 loose teeth in my mouth felt like I was in an orchard on a hot summer's day. My brothers had just rewatched The Exorcist with me a few nights before while babysitting, so its cinematic masterpiece was so ever fresh in my mind as I sat there not listening to my teacher drone on about numbers, secretly popping my teeth out with my tongue and letting my mouth fill with blood. Till I noticed my dear old classmate Tristane, who used to eat rulers and pick on me, was staring at me. So I looked him dead in the eyes, opened my mouth slowly and let all of the teeth and blood just dribble out onto the desk. Then I said in a low grumble, "You will die tonight." He started screaming and then I had to go to church.
Heartfelt story of how in 11th grade I became the school slut. I just moved across country and started a new school. I had exactly one friend. We'll call her Shady, because she was a shady fucking bitch. She started dating a senior boy and didn't want to hang out with me, which is fine. She got all these new cool friends and they didn't like me because I was new and a girl, and I guess that's enough reason. Well, Shady started telling everybody that I fucked a bunch of people, and I was like, what the heck? Who? I literally sit at home and watch Harry Potter. I have no friends. Nonetheless, they'd taught me in the hallways and be like, you slut. Or they'd follow me to the classroom and be like, we're gonna beat your ass. They'd message me on Facebook and be like, we're gonna kill you. And I'd be like, why don't you like me? And they'd be like, die. And I'd be like, okay, fair enough. So I got tired of the bullshit. I was like, I'm gonna become the one thing they fear the most. A real whore. So shortly after, I made one other new friend. His name was Juan, and he was great, and I loved him, and he would invite me to all the parties. I'd go to these parties to get drunk and make out with the guys that these girls liked. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty petty, but yeah. So when I would return to school after the weekend, they'd be like, you're a whore. I'd be like, true. There's really no moral to the story, but if you can't go high, just go really fucking low and beat bitches at their own game.
Put a finger down if you go to get an antibody test for coronavirus to see if you've ever had coronavirus. And so you go and you show up and the nurse is like, okay, we're just going to prick your finger, get your blood, run the test. You're like, okay, great, no big deal. She pricks your finger, you get in the car, you're on your way home, bada bing, bada boom, everything's good. And then you decide to lick down at your finger at that teeny tiny little prick, and that blood just absolutely sets you fucking off. And you have a full-blown seizure. And your eyes start rolling into the back of your head, and you stop breathing, and you wake up to someone literally drowning you in water, and you're so disoriented that you think you've gotten in a terrible, horrible car crash, and there's 15 EMTs surrounding you on the side of the motherfucking highway, and you don't even recognize your mom or your grandma, and you can't form a sentence in English for about 10 minutes after the fact.
I started dating this guy last February, and for Easter he invited me to his family's house, and I really wanted to make a good impression. He was like, don't worry, they'll love you. The only thing is that my mom is obsessed with her dog, so make sure you're nice to him. I'm like, of course I'm gonna be nice to her dog. I love dogs. So we get to his house, and the first thing we see is this loud, yapping chihuahua running towards us. It's like missing patches of hair and has this really bad underbite, but I was like, oh, what a cutie. Mom's like, isn't he so cute? That's Peter. Who names a dog Peter? So we go to the kitchen, and then all of a sudden, Peter starts vigorously humping my leg. His little pink wiener comes out. The mom's like, oh, he does that. He keeps coming back and humping me. So I go to the bathroom, and in my purse I have this little lavender perfume oil that I rub all over my legs, hoping that Peter won't like the smell of lavender. I go back out, we sit down for dinner. Peter goes under the table and starts licking my legs for the entire dinner. So finally we go home, but then his mom calls the next day, and she's crying because she had to take Peter to the vet because he was throwing up all night. I felt so bad. That dog ingested way too much lavender oil, and it's definitely my fault, but I don't say anything. Peter ended up being fine. He fully recovered. I never went back to his house because I was avoiding Peter, tiny, horny chihuahua from hell.
It was on Valentine's Day. Okay. Very romantic. I was in the toilet paper aisle because I did have diarrhea. What a dream to have diarrhea on Valentine's Day. And all of a sudden, this has never happened to me before, I fainted. So when I black in, there are 2 people standing over me. An old lady and a very attractive gentleman. And the old lady's like blocking him, and she's like, you're okay. Everything's okay. I'm like, bitch, no, I'm not okay. You're standing between me and my future husband. So finally, she moves, and it turns out that the young hottie is the EMT. He's like touching my head. He's asking me all these questions. He's like, what's your name? Do you know what day it is? Where do you live? And I'm like, okay, wow, it's obsessed with me. He's like, when's the last time you ate? I'm like, oh my god, he is about to ask me out to dinner on Valentine's Day. His next question was, are you on any medication? And I said, okay, yes, I'm on birth control, but I'm not ready to. This is the second date question. We get to the hospital, he rolls me out next to this person who's definitely on drugs, and I turn around to see where he went, and he's gone. Here's the moral of the story. Men are pigs, and they will string you along, and they will break your heart on Valentine's.
I've always had a good relationship with my mother-in-law up until I was pregnant. My husband's side of the family hasn't had a girl born in the past 100 years. So when everyone found out I was pregnant with a girl, no one believed me. Everyone was so shocked when it was announced that most of them denied it up until the moment she was born. And that's when the horrible comments started. Whenever my husband wasn't around, my mother-in-law would make snarky comments like, "I wonder where she got that nose. It's definitely not my son's." I never told him and let everything slide because she's older and she's my mother-in-law. But when I was pregnant with baby number 2, and yes, it was another girl, I told him to wait as long as possible because I know she wouldn't like the news. When she found out it was a girl, she started sobbing and screaming. She was calling me a whore and demanded that I get out of her house. "Those girls are not ours. She's a whore, a slut. My son did not make those girls." She looked at me and said, "I let you get away with it the first time. I took you in as family. I allowed my son to believe he fathered that brat, but I will not allow it again." My husband was yelling at his mom, and I got up and took my daughter and I ran to the car sobbing.
Put a finger down if you found out that your husband of 10 years cheated on you, so you're super heartbroken and you start going to therapy and you get the guts to tell him to leave the house, and all he replies to your long text message is, "Okay, thank you." So you leave for the weekend so that he can come home and pack his things and leave because you don't want to see him because you don't know how you're going to react. So when you come back on a Sunday, you see that all his things are still here. He comes back a few days later after you not talking to him or seeing him for almost a week, and he tells you, "Why would you pack all his things and put him in the garage because you had to do it yourself?" So then you tell him, "Hey, well, you're not coming home. Like, where are you staying?" And he's still not admitting that he's been staying at that address that you still have from the very first time that he didn't come home. So then you try to find out who she is, who this person is, because at this point you already know that it must be a lady. So you finally found his truck around the area where he
Storytime at the most dirtiest college roommate ever. By the way, we're calling her Jessie. So I moved in before Jessie and I get settled in bed late. The next day, she comes and throws her bag on the bed, then leaves. I thought it was weird because she didn't even say anything to me. A couple hours later, she comes back and I'm like, hello? And she's like, "My bad," and comes give me a hug. She smelled very bad. She starts unpacking all of her clothes and blankets, but they smelled like mildew. Anyways, a week later, there's this party going on for freshmen, and she goes, but I stay in because I had a migraine. I told her that when she comes back, can she keep the light off? Now it's 2 a.m., and she comes back in very loud, uses the bathroom, then goes to sleep.